This is Keyed Up with Max Key.
All right, 3, 2, 1, and we're rolling. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another week of Keyed Up, brought to you by Max Key and hosted proudly by Stonewood Key. Now, today I have a very exciting guest on. She is a massive inspiration to a lot of people. Absolutely love her content. She's probably one of the happiest people I've ever seen online. And it's a pleasure to have you here. Anjuli Mack, welcome.
Yay, thank you so much for having me.
That's all good. Thank you for taking the journey up to the big smoke.
Yeah, a lot of traffic this morning, but I'm excited to catch up.
The traffic's been shocking lately, eh?
Yeah, I'm just glad I don't have to do this trip often.
Yeah. Yeah, you were saying you were driving a manual up and you...
Yeah, I feel like that's a leg workout in itself, so I didn't really get a rest day today. It's like quad workout.
Your left leg's going to be bigger than your right.
Yeah.
Sweet. So obviously I want to get into all the that kind of the bodybuilding and stuff, but I thought a good place to start is kind of what was life like, you know, before all this, when you were younger. Like, talk me through growing up. So you're from what part of New Zealand?
That's quite a good question because I've never actually spoken about like growing up anywhere. So this will be new for people. So I'm half Thai, half English. My mum's my mum's Thai, my dad's English. I was born in Taupo, but brought up in Blenheim. So small town girl, no traffic lights no traffic at all. So yeah, I grew up there, but my background was so different to what it is now. Like I played violin and piano for 10 plus years.
Wow.
I went to university at Waikato, which is how I guess I got up into the Auckland scene and things. I was doing business management there, majoring in accounting, and alongside that, performance violin.
Wow.
Yeah, so very different to what I do now. It was mainly stress relief that I went to the gym for, because when I do something, I go all in and I like put a lot of pressure on myself to do well. So I was doing violin, accounting, never done accounting in my life before, and I just really needed something to take my mind off, to be honest, study, numbers and music.
You know, with violin, I've always wondered how, like, the concert violinists are insane. You know, like, how do you keep up with the kind of, they're just doing so much. I'm explaining this terribly, but they're so intense. Like, how do you remember, like, all the...
My memory is appalling. So whenever I do competitions and things, my hardest thing was remembering the pieces. But I think with anything, it's like consistency, time and time again, every single day. Like I would practice violin and piano for hours every day. I'd wake up at 5. Even when I was in college, I'd wake up at 5, do piano. I'd skip classes at school to practice violin. So my wagging school was like leaving to practice in the music room.
Such a badass.
Yeah, so I'm so cool. But yeah, it paid off for me. Like I ended up doing all my top grades in music. I got scholarships at uni for different things, and it just showed, I guess, the people that gave me the scholarships for uni that I can commit to something. So violin and piano taught me a lot, even though it's not as much in my life now as it used to be back then. It taught me time management, it taught me discipline, consistency, the power of actually practicing something long term. So I think I learned a lot from that, and I'm grateful that I was pushed into music as a kid, because now I apply it to everything else in life. Yeah,
that's awesome. Can you still like jump on and smack out a tune?
Yeah, so I've started recently now that I have a bit more time away from, like we'll get into competing later, but now I've got the year off, I think, competing, so it's given me more time to be able to do things I'm passionate about outside of gym, and so I've started doing piano and violin again.
Awesome.
Yeah,
have you found, because I found this, so I used to kind of like you, very all or nothing person, and there's a bunch of stuff, you know, I used to do when I was younger that I was so obsessed with, like swimming, for example. I used to swim like 9 times a week, like just prolifically obsessed with it, and then hated it, like didn't even want to look at a pool, but then now I like kind of miss it, and I've like kind of slowly got back into it. And have you found that with your music?
That's really cool. Yeah, I think sometimes if you do something all the time, it can either go two ways. Like they say, if you get paid and you get incentivized to do something that you love doing anyway, sometimes it can have the opposite effect. So
because it becomes a job.
It becomes more like a job. And so for violin and piano, I actually started a business when I was maybe like 13 or 14.
Wow.
I still haven't shared the name of it publicly anywhere, because I still think it's a good idea and I might do it later, but it was a music business, and I was performing at weddings. I performed at people's night before the weddings. I did some events.
Did you go on New Zealand's Got Talent?
No, I never did.
You should.
I think like kids are very good. I feel as if I was not naturally talented. I don't feel like I'm naturally talented at anything. Like I wasn't talented at violin and piano. I just worked really, really hard. And I feel my brother played violin and he was naturally just better than me at it. But I'm someone that like if I want something, I really go for it. So I practiced so much for violin, piano, and I ended up getting like top grades with top marks.
Wow.
And then I set a little challenge in my head against my brother. He had got his top grades, so I wanted to get in violin and piano, not just violin. So I did it.
Just double beat him. I love that.
That sibling rivalry.
But do you think, like, my dad doesn't have a musical bone in his body? Like, even if he practiced every day, I don't think he would be able to be a scholarship pianist.
I think it's like a little bit of your surroundings and starting early. I think starting early definitely makes it easier to learn. Same with languages. But I think anyone can start anything at any age these days because there's so much out there. But I do think there is certain people that will be better at certain things than other people. Like, I mean, I wouldn't be a basketball player, you know, no matter how hard I tried. Like,
basketball's the one sport, though, like, I reckon there's a lot of sports in life where hard work gets you lots of places. Basketball, I genuinely reckon, if you're not over 6'2", it's like a genuine disadvantage.
Yeah, I do think height plays a massive role for certain sports. And then there's certain things, like I read a lot of self-development books, and there was one I was reading the other day, I think it was in Atomic Habits, and they were talking about how...
Oh, that's such a good book.
Such a good book. It's like my third time reading.
Yeah, I saw you posted the other day, you're like, second time reading it.
Yeah. So the idea behind something in there, he was saying he wanted to see if people could, you know, learn a talent or whatever. And so he had his kids learn chess, and they became like grand chess masters and stuff. But he homeschooled them. They lived and breathed chess. Him and his wife like pushed it on the kids the whole way through. And one of them, the daughters, became like the youngest chess master in history. So I think like if you lived and breathed whatever it was that you wanted to do, you would have potential to do it. And I like that quote where it says like, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work. Because I do think that there's been times where there's definitely been people that are more talented than me in different areas of life, but I've been able to push past that because I don't stop working.
Awesome. Yeah, and I definitely think when, you know, you have that work ethic where you just want it so badly, when you get put in that situation where, you know, it comes down to the mental side of things, when you know you've grinded your ass off for it, you're probably going to push. Whereas if you've naturally just got there, you know, it's probably easier to be like, I can't be bothered. Or like, oh, God. You know, whereas those people that have just grinded.
Yeah, I think that also comes from like upbringing too. And I mean, we've spoken about this like off podcast and stuff. I think certain people respond in different ways. So for me personally, like I don't come from a very well-off family whatsoever, like not at all. No one in my family. Most of my family, like my mum didn't go to school because she's from Thailand, got taken out of school at a young age.
How did your parents meet?
My dad was traveling around the world taking photos, and this is the love story. I love a good love story.
Yeah.
He was in Thailand. He was taking photos everywhere on just a holiday or whatever. He took a photo of my mum, and she turned around and tried to charge him for the photo because she was selling street food. And so she tried to charge him, and he ended up taking her out for lunch. Typical like romance story.
Did he buy her food?
Yeah, he took her out for lunch, and then he flew her back to England, and they got married, and they're split now, but they're good friends, and crazy.
So could she speak English? Or?
Yeah, a little bit. Now
yeah.
she speaks English. It's like broken English, but she didn't get to go to school, and so a big reason why I went to uni is she was so fixated on us getting the proper education because she didn't. But then that means that obviously my parents didn't have a lot of money, so I know what it's like to work crazy different jobs when I'm younger, and that's why I'm so like specific now about working hard in everything they do and doing well at it, because I got that work ethic from my parents. Whereas other people, like if you're sometimes given everything, I feel like you don't have an understanding of what it's like to work for something.
Totally.
But then of course there's flip sides, like there's other people that come from nothing and they use that as a reason not to be successful, or the flip side, people that come from really well-off families that grind really hard anyway. So everyone's different.
Well, it's all outlook, and I think what you said about, you know, your parents teaching you that, I think that's so true. But then flip side as well, there are people with terrible upbringings, but I definitely do think there's a pretty high correlation between, you know, the values your parents instill in you, whatever class you're from. Because my parents were the same. I obviously, you know, my dad was successful in business, but he was raised by an Austrian Jew who was in like the Holocaust and like really, really tough upbringing. And so all she used to like hit on him was, you got to work hard, like hard work beats everything, and you got to get an education, you got to learn. And so, you know, he instilled all those values into me. And so, you know, me and Dad grew up completely different, but those values, I think, you know, there'd be pretty high similarities between what she told him and what he told me.
Yeah, definitely. And I think like parents, at the end of the day, they can teach us the values that they want us to have and things, but it's also going to be the surroundings that you put yourself in. Like, you could have the best parents that are taking care of you financially or teaching you how they want you to be, but if you go to a school and you get caught up in the wrong crowds, like, who you surround yourself with matters. So me being in Blenheim, a very
what
small
school did you go to?
Marlborough, there's only one school.
Is there only one school?
Yeah.
I've never been to. I don't even know where Blenheim is.
Yeah, it's like top of the South Island, very small. I think at the time there was 30,000 people. There was only one boys' high school, one girls' high school. It was completely different to what I've seen schools are like up in Auckland. And it was like $200 a year. It wasn't a private school. When I went to uni, I met girls that were paying thousands for their schools, but we ended up in the same place. Like, we were in the same university halls, same uni. I had scholarships. Like, we were no different based on that. So I think you can come from different areas of life when you start up, but still end up in the same place as other people.
What were you like at school?
This is so lame. I was reading out to my husband a section from my diary. I've kept a journal since I was like 12.
Did you? That's
It's so weird. So I can go back and see what I was actually like from when I was 12 years old. I'd literally write every day all through uni, like how I was feeling and what I was thinking. And there was one section I read and it was like, I'm going to sit my exams at the end of the year and I think I'll go for merit, but maybe I'll get distinction. I'm not sure. And I would say that, to be honest, I was quite like what people would say, I guess, geeky, in that I love learning. I loved music. I'd choose any day to practice music instead of going and like gossiping in the lunchrooms kind of thing.
Yeah.
That was more my passion, and I just always wanted to be good at what I was doing. But in saying that, like, I was in the groups of people that I guess, like, the girls all their parents had money. They were all, like, into brands and things. So I was around that group, but I was just so focused on what I was doing. I didn't have time to sit around and get caught up in anything. So then when it came to university, instead of going to Wellington or Dunedin, which is where pretty much everyone went to from Blenheim, I thought, you know what, I'm going to go up north. I'll go somewhere brand new. And
how'd you end up
fresh.
in Waikato?
Mainly it was for violin. Like, the professor was so good, I wanted to go to her. And then I think I got like 4 or 5 scholarships in business for it. So that was very tempting. The scholarships were great. And I just wanted a clean slate. So I knew no one. I didn't know anyone up here. I just wanted a fresh start, and I recreated my whole self. Like, I changed my name. I just started.
Literally changed your name?
Yeah, well, my full name is Anjuli Victoria Deborah Mack, but
that is a mouthful.
Yeah, it's a very big mouthful. But no one knew me as Anjuli. Everyone called me Vicky for years. But I started social media, wanted to change my name so no one could find me on social media, and just start sharing my journey on Instagram. But that's like kind of a whole new story. But yeah, I just wanted a whole fresh start. And I got that at uni, and I loved the way things worked out.
Yeah, no, you've done bloody well. So I guess that's the perfect intro into, you've had this crazy journey from, you know, your before and after photos, and just even mentally the person that looks like you were to who you are now. That's a massive change. Like, how, obviously that didn't happen overnight, but what kick-started that? How do you go from someone that, you know, it wasn't like you were massively overweight or anything, but you didn't look like you cared about fitness or, you know, and then now, you know, you're literally winning the WBFF.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting because, like, even when people see the before photos of me, it's kind of embarrassing, but I guess a lot of women will relate to this. I was actually already training before that.
Oh, yeah.
So I was weight training when I was in high school a little bit, but I had towards the end of high school, like 18, I had no idea what I was doing. I'd go to the gym and I'd put on a song and then I'd do the exercise for as long as the song would go. Like, no idea what I was doing. No idea of nutrition. Like, my parents would often let me cook for myself and it would be like ketchup on rice. Coming from a Thai family, there's always like rice in the house. So it's just ketchup and rice, chicken nuggets. Had no idea about nutrition.
Chicken nuggets aren't very Thai.
No, whatever's in the freezer. My mum.
I've been to Bangkok and I did not have chicken nuggets.
They don't do chicken nuggets, but she does a good pad thai.
Yeah.
So anyway, I had no idea about nutrition and training. And then I got to uni. I started going to the gym. There were no women in the gym when I was 18 or 19. It was all men, and a lot of them were like quite the bigger boys at uni.
It's a real bro culture.
Yeah, very bro culture.
See how? Because even like when I started gymming,
different.
I was like 67 kilos. I was tiny.
That's like my almost max weight.
Yeah, like I'm 31 kilos heavier now than I was then. And see, I hated it. I used to go there and I was like the scrawny little dude, but like, it's intimidating, you know, when you're around these like big dudes. Yeah. How did you find it as a girl going into that setting, especially if, you know, you didn't really understand how to train, or were you just so naive to it all that you were just like, oh, like this is good?
I'm pretty confident. Like even before I lost fat and stuff, I'm pretty confident in what I want to do. So if I want to do something, like I'm fine in tuning everyone else out. So I just put headphones on and go in. But I'm also a really friendly person. So after a matter of time of seeing people consistently every day, I'd give them a smile, I'd say hello. And I became friends with like all the gym guys. So they started training with me because I was pretty strong. Like I was eating whatever I wanted at uni. Yeah. And so I did get strong very quickly, and I trained with the guys, but it was very much bro school diets, like chicken, broccoli, veg. Some of the guys were on steroids. Like it was just a whole new world to me.
Yeah, that culture's crazy, right?
Very different. And they're uni students, you know, so it's not as if like we all had a lot of money. So I don't know how they were getting all their money to spend on that kind of stuff. But anyway, we train chest, we train deads, we train bench, and that's deads, bench, and squats were the 3 mains, and that's all we do.
That's pretty much all I do at the moment.
And they tell me to like, stop doing cardio, to eat more, and they're telling me all this stuff. So I'm working really hard with the boys, and then I'm eating lots of food, and I was like gaining weight because I was also sometimes drinking at uni and going out to party, O-week and all of that. So I was gaining weight, and I actually never started the gym to change how I looked. Like growing up, I never even contemplated how I look. Like it just wasn't a thing to focus on. Now I feel like people hyper focus on how they look.
Yeah, it's like everyone's so obsessed with it.
Yeah, because of social media. But back then it wasn't a super big thing. But I started Instagram to share my journey of getting stronger in the gym. I was getting really, really strong. Like I was stronger back then than I am now. Yeah. But then one day, just some news got back to me about some girls talking about me, and they had said something nasty about why does she go to the gym? She doesn't even look any different. And I didn't start going to the gym to change how I looked. But me being like 19 or so, that's quite not a nice thing to say about someone. So that flicked in my mind like, oh yeah, well, why do I go to the gym all the time if I'm not changing how I look? Not that I started it for that. So then I started Googling how to lose weight, how to get abs, what do models eat, everything you can imagine. And I tried everything. I jumped from keto diet to eating only spinach, egg whites, broccoli, very boring, clean eating. Then I fall into the cheat meal trap of overeating all weekend to start again on Monday. And I had no consistency with nutrition. I was so unhappy. It was only when I got to a place where I thought like this is super unhealthy what I'm doing, like overeating, undereating, overtraining. Like I go to the gym twice a day, some days at uni. I'd run around the park in my study breaks. It was just so obsessive that I reached out to get help from a nutritionist, and then learned more about nutrition, and then thankfully like took control of what I was doing and took back the weight training and got proper structure around it. And then from that, I managed to get myself into situations where I could go to the fitness expos to be surrounded by fitness people that knew what they were doing, to meet other women that were lifting over in Australia instead of being surrounded by these guys that didn't know what was right for me. Yeah. And that kind of changed things for me. And it was getting into the fitness expos that I then saw what these other women looked like and thought, I want to do that. And that's how I kind of fell down a competing path.
Do you think, are a lot of those women on steroids?
So this is interesting too, because when I was younger and I was in the gym, like at uni, I looked at competitors and I just instantly thought, oh, these people look like this because they take steroids. And that was the first thing I thought. And I thought, oh, I could never compete because I don't do that. And I thought they look so muscly because they took something. And I'm sure that is the case for a lot of people. But I didn't want to do that, obviously. And then thank goodness I invested time in actually understanding nutrition, put in the time to train. I met Ross, my now husband, in the gym, and he knew a lot. He did sports science down in Dunedin, so he taught me a lot about nutrition too. I started tracking my calories, tracking my macros, got a coach, decided to compete, and I realized like, oh, you can transform without needing to take anything extra. So my first comp, I just did it to see if I liked it. I hated the whole prep. It was 16 weeks of following the exact same plan pretty much, just taking down the food. It was very no flexible dieting. It was all chicken, broccoli, oats. Horrible time.
Yeah, because I did like a shoot in like 2016 for Remix. And that's the only time I've done like a prep. It was probably nothing as intense as yours, but man, I didn't even want to look at a chicken. I was so sick of it. Like,
it gets like that. It's not a fun time.
but how do you have that willpower to, I don't know, like I used to train with this guy and he used to say, I don't even care about food. Food to me is literally just how I look good. Like he had this relationship with food where it wasn't about taste or anything. It was literally like X plus Y equals Z. So that's how I do it.
I am not one of those people, and I don't understand the people that are like, oh, food is just fuel, or I forgot to eat today. I'm like, what? What is this? So I'm not one of those people, but that prep made me realize, like, I can't do that. I can't eat the same thing every day for the rest of my life. No. And I thought I'd never do another one. I stepped on stage, and the moment I felt the lights on me, I just loved it.
Oh, you did?
I just knew I was, because I love performing. I love violin, piano. So I just loved that feeling, and I thought, oh no, I'm hooked on it. But after that, I gained all the weight back and more, because no one wants to eat chicken, broccoli, rice forever. Yeah, I must try chicken nuggets. So
good healthy Thai.
like good Thai meals. But anyway, so like when you eat that restricted, like you would have for that, you can't stick to it. So that's why so many people fail when it comes to diets and nutrition and stuff, because they go so restricted that they can't see themselves doing it for the rest of their life, and then they fall off track straight away, either before they achieve their goal or as soon as they achieve their goal, they go the polar opposite way.
Yeah, because you see that a lot. Like, so that was actually going to be one of my questions for you, is how do you mentally deal with, I mean, what I find tough is, okay, say in business, like if I have a bad year, it's pretty easy to like hide it, or, you know, you never really publicly show that kind of stuff. So it's very easy for me, you know, people might come up to me and go, oh, you're having a great year and I'm having a terrible year, but no one knows.
Yeah, I feel it.
With what you do, if you put on weight or you lose your abs, it's pretty obvious that, you know, you're not in like peak shape. So how do you mentally deal with, you know, that pressure? Because no one can look good all the time.
That's so hard, mentally and physically. Like after my first show, it got to the point where I was honestly crying every day. And I'm a happy person, like you said.
So
you know, I'm very positive. I believe in like taking care of myself. I always want to bring good energy for other people and support them. But it got to the point where after my comp, I could not maintain it, and it was the first time I'd ever shredded down too. And
how much weight do you lose in a shred, just for perspective?
For that one, I think I did actually need to lose lots because I didn't get super lean for it. It was my first show. I had no idea really what I was doing. Yeah. But I think I lost maybe 6 kilos and I gained 8 back.
Wow.
And that's a lot on me. Like it feels as if I gained 8 kilos from where I am now, people would be like, oh, okay, calm down. So for me losing that, going from being the leanest I'd been at that point in my life, I've been far leaner now. It was hard to gain 8 kilos back from that, and I was just crying every day. I was struggling to control my eating. What
were you crying? Like, what was making you?
I just felt so unhappy. Like, how can you go from being in the peak of your life to condition-wise to feeling so out of control, not being able to control your eating? I'd work from home and I'd just be eating all the time. I felt like an absolute like fraud, you know, helping people. Yeah. I wasn't a coach at that time, but I was still working in the fitness industry for a supplement brand online from home, and so I'm helping these other people achieve their goals, but I was so out of control, so I didn't, like, my actions weren't aligning to where I wanted to be. I felt like I was posting these photos online from comp and I didn't even look like that, because obviously social media is not real life. And I just felt like I really let myself down. So it got to a point where one day I woke up and I thought, I really can't keep doing this to myself, and it was literally just a snap moment in my head where I said to Ross, like, I need you to take these photos for me. I was so embarrassed. I put on a bikini. I took these photos with a little day one sign I wrote myself, took these photos, and I was smiling because I was like, I'm never doing this to myself again. And that, like, I literally just got a coach, nutrition training for accountability. It was my birthday, I think 10 weeks time or so away, and I planned, okay, I'm going to do a photo shoot no matter how I look. I'm going to start taking actions to change my life. And I did it. I think I dropped 5 kilos. I felt much better. I did my first ever and last ever, most likely, like, lingerie shoot with balloons, like typical Instagram life. Did it. I felt so good. It's not that I was the leanest I'd ever been, but it was the action that built the confidence, in that I decided, okay, I'm not going to keep overeating every single day. I'm not going to feel this way anymore. So I started eating better. I started, you know, working out more consistently again. And I just took charge of myself, and I felt so much better for it.
What would you say to someone, because I've never been someone that struggled like with my weight or, you know, with motivation, but I found after lockdown, it was weird. It was like the first time in my life where I was like dragging myself to the gym, and I like visibly had put on weight, and and so what what would you say? But I still kind of found that way to like get myself back. But there's lots of people that struggle with that. So what would you say to someone where, because obviously when you're at your worst, or where if you're feeling like crap, in the present moment, it feels like a mountain you have to climb. And they see people like you with like these 6-pack abs and all smiley and happy, and they're like, God, I'm so far from that. But Rome wasn't built in a day. So what would you say to people listening now that aren't happy with where they're at, but it feels too big of a hill to climb? How would you even start the process?
Yeah, good question. So I think, first of all, it's to know, especially if someone's come out of lockdown and that's why they're feeling that way, whether they were fit before or not, is that so many people are in that position. I had so many people coming to me after lockdown saying they gained 30, 40, 50 pounds in America and things. And it's hard.
Easy to do in America.
It is. Yeah, the portions are very big, and the food is the meals are twice the size of here in New Zealand. So, you know what, it does happen, but I think, in life, you're always going to go through different phases of motivation or not, or gaining weight, losing weight. And I think the most important thing is to acknowledge where you are right now and realize what needs to be done in order to achieve the goal. So if someone's looking at themselves every single day in the mirror and they feel so unhappy, so unconfident, they're lacking in energy, they're not sleeping properly, they're feeling really stressed all the time, you could either live your life staying like that for the rest of your life, or you could decide, I actually don't want to feel like this every day. What can I do today to make myself feel a little bit better? And it might mean okay, I'm going to have a better night's sleep tonight. I'm going to turn my phone off at 7 o'clock and read a book before I go to bed. It might mean that maybe you're drinking 5 coffees a day. Okay, I'm going to have 2 coffees a day and drink more water. Carry your water bottle with you. Maybe you go for a walk in your lunch break instead of going out for lunch with your colleagues. I think it's the accumulation of small habits every single day that will make the biggest difference. And from day to day, it might not seem like a big thing, but I like kind of thinking of it. If you don't brush your teeth for a day, maybe no one will notice. If you don't brush your teeth for 2 days, it doesn't make a big difference probably. But if you do that for a year, it's going to make a big difference. So the same thing applies with walking more, drinking more water, being more mindful with your nutrition. Just notice the small habits that you can change. And the best thing I ever did on my fitness journey, and I've said this well before I became a coach, is to get a coach. Investing in a coach, whether you're wanting to do a business and you get a business mentor, or you want to lose fat or build muscle, or you play a sport and you get a coach for that, you're investing in yourself. I don't see it as an expense. You're investing in making yourself better. It's I have no issue in buying a book because it makes me smarter or it makes me better. And that I see as an investment in myself, not an expense. So if you're someone that has no idea where to start on your fitness journey or a business journey, invest in getting a coach that can give you the plan to help you save 3 years of trying everything like I did. I literally wasted 3 years trying anything and everything, and I got no results. Then in 90 days with a coach, I got results. I competed in 100 days. From deciding that I wanted to compete for my first show to competing and stepping on stage, it was 100 days.
100 days.
So you can transform.
Yeah, what's a realistic, because whenever I'm looking a bit dusty, I'm like, oh yeah, give me 2 weeks. And 2 weeks, you look no different.
I just need 1 week.
Yeah.
I always say for people that want to work with me, 3 months is a good time to build habits and transform. Because I would say, to be honest, most people take a month to just get a good base of understanding of nutrition and training and getting steps, getting water and getting sleep on point. And then they've got 8 weeks of solid consistency. You can get great results in that time. I've had women lose 20 plus pounds in 90 days. But I would also say, looking further than that, past a fat loss goal, is solidifying the habits that you've built. So no one wants to hear it, but I would say 3 to 6 months working with a coach. I say 3 months of fat loss, 3 months of getting to a place where you can reverse diet and then maintain the weight that you've lost. For someone that wants to just get shredded, if you're I really want to tighten up, I've done 8-week challenges for my girls, and I've said, right, if you really want to nail this in 8 weeks' time, you can do it. And they've gone shredded by following everything. But we're talking 10,000 steps a day, 3 liters of water a day, weight training 5 to 6 times a week, nutrition on point, weighing all their food, tracking all their food. And no one wants to hear, it's going to take time to get results.
Everyone wants things now. Eh?
Yeah, they want it right now, and they want a really quick fix. They want to get fit for their holiday in 2 weeks' time, or they want to get ready for their wedding in 3 months.
You're the shred for R&B on the 15th of December.
Whatever someone's goal is, the right time to start was always yesterday, and the second best time is always today. you know, where you are right now is because of the decisions you've made for like months or weeks, months or years prior. So you can't really expect to transform overnight or in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. But you can expect to notice changes in terms of energy levels, how you feel, how good your sleep is, and even just mentally by choosing to drink more water, to eat better, to move your body. I feel like it has such a good impact mentally and physically.
Oh, yeah.
Especially after lockdowns and stuff. You know, everyone mentally, I think, was so drained after
Yeah,
that.
I felt more tired sitting on my couch doing nothing. Like one day, this is horrific. My step count was like 82.
Oh, no! Like,
literally, I know.
Horrible.
I'm like so ADD as well. So for me, it was like I walked to the couch.
That stresses me out.
I know. It was
disgusting.
so...
No judgment, but judgment.
No, it was. But I just got to a point I was so over it. Like everything in my life I enjoyed got taken away from me.
Yeah, I feel 2019 before lockdowns was, until last year, was the best year of my life. Like I would say so many good things happened. Like I Fit with Anjuli was going really well. We got engaged. I competed twice. I did like pretty well in those shows in Australia. We traveled around the world, like some of the best trips I've had. And then we went into lockdowns and I felt like everything was taken away from me.
Yeah.
And we were in a 1-bedroom apartment in Auckland. It was so small that we couldn't wake up and train at the same time. We hardly had any equipment, so Ross would wake up. I honestly got to the point where I thought I would just sleep in. My sleep in would be like 5 a.m. or 6, you know, but still a sleep in for me. And
Yeah, how do you always get up so like honestly, sometimes watching your stories makes me depressed. Like I'll be like getting up, it's like 7:30. You've like
oh my God.
been to the gym, you've had breakfast, you've made 10 calls, and I'm like, God, I'm still in bed. Like,
Yeah, that's funny. I think everyone has different lifestyles. Like you and I probably sleep the same amount of time, but you probably go to bed later.
yeah.
So I think people think, oh, you know, if you're waking up, you're like, oh, you must not sleep. But no, I'm in bed by like 8-ish.
Yeah.
And I wake up at 4:30, and that's just what works for me. I know that I can get my workout in. No one's going to bother me. I get everything I want done. And I don't function well at night. Like I'd rather sleep. And I've never been someone to function well at night. Like I would sometimes at uni be coming home from town at 3 a.m. while there was another guy in the floor above that would study until 3 a.m. because that's his peak time, whereas I'd rather wake up at 3 a.m. to study.
Yeah.
So at uni, I would wake up at like 3:30. I'd back to the practice rooms. I'd do violin, piano, go to the gym, be showered, had breakfast and stuff by 8 a.m. for class. And that works well for me, whereas other people would rather sleep until 7:30 and go to bed later. So
Yeah, it's funny. Me and my
routine.
sister are like complete. Like I'm like you. I go to bed pretty early as well and get up. I try to, and she is like the complete opposite. And when we were younger and we had to share a room, there was this quite funny story. We were in Italy one time on like a family trip, and I'm like, Steffi, I'm going to bed, and she's like, nah, I'm reading. And so there was this light at the other end of the room, and we're like lying next to each other in these two single beds. So I'd walk over, switch it off, go back to bed. Then like I'd get into bed, she'd get up, and then she'd walk over the light, switch it back on, and this went on for like 45 minutes.
Oh my God.
And we ended up having this like screaming
Brother sisters, terrible.
Oh, it just never gets better. You'd think as well, that was when we were like 24 and 27.
I was thinking like, oh yeah, 10 and 8
No.
or something. Like, oh wow.
No, so,
Yeah.
but she's the same. Like she just loves being up till like 3, 4 a.m.
That's
I can think of nothing worse.
Yeah, me neither. Like now I'm at the point where if it's like a dinner, can we have it at 5:30
Yeah.
or something? Like, can we catch up like early? That's so funny. Brothers and sisters, it's interesting because you've been raised the same way, but my brother and I are polar opposites with so many things, with money, with music, with what we wanted to study at uni, with what times we wake up. Like he's definitely a night owl and would sleep until like, I don't know, 10 or 11.
That stresses me out
if I
for people
that stresses me out just saying it.
Yeah.
Like half your day is gone. I feel bad if I have to, like my coach was telling me in lead up to my last show, like to help with fat loss and just hormones and stuff, to sleep until, I think she said, oh, try and sleep until like 5 or 5:30, maybe even 6 if you can. Okay.
Yeah, like,
And I did. I needed to because I was so hungry and tired towards my last show that I really did try and sleep until like 5:30 and some mornings 6. But otherwise, like I just love my routine and I have a very set, I wake up at this time, I go to sleep at this time, and it helps having, you know, a husband that's also wired the same way. Because if anything, like if I want to sleep in, he's the one waking up at 4:30, like to the dot. And if anything, it's like more annoying than good. But I think everyone's just different, and it does make a difference as to where you live in the world in terms of whether it's bright or not in the morning. Like we wake up in pitch black.
Yeah, because I was in the Gold Coast a couple of years ago, and it's sick.
So
like you get up
good.
at 4, it's like light, everyone's walking. You're like, oh, this
It's a whole different lifestyle, Australia. Like,
Yeah.
and Gold Coast, I think, doesn't have
They don't have daylight saving, I don't think.
So it's like 3 a.m. I think.
I
It
know.
can be light. I love it.
Because I got home and I was like, I'm on this fitness thing. I'm going to get up. And I go at like 4 and it was like cold and dark. And I'm going straight back to bed.
It's definitely way harder in the winter and the darker seasons and things.
Oh, yeah.
But I think there's so many ways to wake up earlier, like go to bed earlier, have a really good wind down routine, don't have caffeine after midday, make sure that your alarm is on the other side of the room if you're someone that hits snooze. And I just don't even think about, like, I roll out of bed and I'm up and going. Like, I'm, if anything, but one of those sickly, annoying people that's like high energy at 4:30 in the morning. Yeah,
that's what my sister thinks of me. She's like, "How are you like this?"
Yeah, I'm like way too full on in the morning. But yeah, I don't know. It's just what works for me, and I think people have to find what works for them. Like if someone wakes up every morning at 7:30 and they know they've got to be out the door at 8, and they're constantly living this stressed and rushed lifestyle, like how are you going to have a good start to the day? What if you get stuck in traffic like we did today, and then you've started the day off really negative because you're hating the traffic, you're running late, you're stressed, you get to the office like all sweaty and gross. No one wants to like live their life constantly rushing like that. Like today was a big enough rush for me, and we woke up at 4:30 and left at 5.
How do you deal though? Because obviously in life, you know, no matter how much you plan things go wrong. How do you deal with like failure? And not that getting stuck in traffic's failure, but you know, things like that.
I have had failures, definitely.
Yeah. How have you dealt with them?
I think in the past I was not as good at handling quote mark failure as I am now, because I saw everything as a failure. Like if something didn't go the way that I planned for it to go, I would think that was the end of the world. But now thankfully I've learned, like, you know, a failure, whatever that looks like to you, is just another lesson learned. So really try and take away from the quote mark failures that I have by learning from it. So a few examples. I don't think I've ever said this anywhere because I was so embarrassed, but now I don't really care. So I had never felt anything at uni. Like I studied really hard. I worked really hard, even though I'd never done accounting before. And the last paper that I had in my final semester was the hardest paper, and it had like a 90% fail rate, something ridiculous. Wow. And you need it to do a chartered accountancy. And I didn't want to do accounting anyway. I decided, but yeah, I studied really hard for it. I worked so hard, and I was determined to not be a statistic of a failure. And I went into it and I just knew it was not what I wanted. And I got my results back, and it's like, I don't even like saying it out loud because I still feel like a failure that happened, but I didn't pass it. Yeah. Gross to say that publicly online, but anyway, I didn't. It happens.
Do you know what my dad says about papers like that?
What?
They're just 2-year papers.
Oh yeah, what, you need another year to go?
Yeah, because he failed like a few at uni, and he's like, yeah. That's the thing. He was like a C student.
Oh, yeah, see? And I think like, you know, he's obviously done well for himself, and I think that at the end of the day, like uni is not for everyone, and I was not the best even in school. Like I was great at speeches. I could do English naturally fine. I'm definitely a freak for maths. I love numbers. I love money. But when I was in school, like my English teacher, I remember she said, I was talking too much in class, typical. She said, if you don't want to be here, you can go and play your stupid violin. But my tongue, she said...
Did you get your little violin out?
I honestly, because I would wag her class all the time to go practice violin, and my music teacher would just write me notes for it and excuse me, but I bit my tongue not to say anything to that, and I just don't think that school is necessarily for everyone, and that university is definitely not for everyone. Like, I went to uni because I thought doing accounting would make me a lot of money, and money would make me happy, and that's why I did accounting. And now I don't do accounting. I pay for an accountant because I don't want to do it. And I get people love that, but it's not for me. So when it comes to failure, I thought, well, to be honest, I didn't want to do that anyway. So that wasn't a biggie. But there's been times in life where I definitely have failed to an extent in which I would definitely class a failure. Like I had second and third in Australia competing. And the year that I went from second was my second show after I gained all that weight and lost it again. So I was amazed at that, and I thought they must like me, so I can do this. So then I went for my next show the year after, so a whole year later, and I got third. The girl that won turned up and was absolutely phenomenal. No one could beat her. She then went on to win against all the top people in Australia.
What makes someone like, honestly, because I see everyone on stage, and I as like a layman, I can't differentiate them. Like what makes someone, when you say she was like,
oh, she's pretty insane. But yeah, so the difference, I guess, what I compete in WBFF.
What does that stand for?
Yeah, it stands for World Beauty, Fitness and Fashion. Oh. So the fitness and fashion side is it's not just someone that steps on stage and they look really muscly and you're like, oh, she's got the biggest muscles, she's going to win. What I compete in is really like a beauty pageant with fitness. So it's about your hair, your makeup, your overall look, and 40% of the mark is on marketability. So do they think you could be,
sell?
Yeah, you can sell, you could be on a magazine cover. That's kind of like the idea, which is why I love it, because it's not just about who has the biggest muscles. It's like the whole package, they say. So she stepped on stage. She'd won another federation the week before, turned up, won this. Once you win and you go pro, you can compete against other pros that have won their classes.
So as an amateur, what's the difference?
Yeah, so as an amateur, you compete against everyone else that's like an amateur. And if you look good enough in the eyes of what the judges think, they can give you what's known as a pro card. And that's like a status of you are good. We see that you've got potential. You get to compete with the best of the best. So it's something that a lot of people that compete strive for. Like you want that pro card.
And so is that the tournament you won? Is it a tournament?
Yeah, competition.
Competition.
Yeah.
So that one, it was in Atlantic City?
Yeah, in Atlantic City, America. So just to put things into perspective of how hard it is to get a pro card, in my first ever show, there was 60 girls on stage. We were on stage for so long. The girl that came first didn't get a pro card. She beat 59 other girls in a lineup on stage. Like, that's a lot of people. That's the biggest class there's ever been.
Wow.
Then my second show, I came second place. I was on cloud nine. I couldn't even imagine getting top 3. But I got second place. The girl that got first looked amazing, deserved it. She didn't get a pro card.
So is it kind of one of those things where you could win and you might get one, and at any moment you could get one, but you don't know?
Yeah, so they can choose. I'm not sure if there's another. I don't think there's any sport that like has that situation, because in a lot of sports it's like tennis, you either win or you don't win. But in this, it's like you could win and still not get that pro card, which means you're still competing with amateurs until the judge decides, like, or the judging panel, because there could be like 6 to 8 judges.
What if they just don't like you? What if they like saw your Instagram and they just thought you sucked?
So,
but like you were like, you ticked all the boxes, but they're just like, she's painful.
Yeah, so I think the cool thing about what I compete in WBFF is they're very big on awarding people that deserve it based on who shows up on the day the best. So I love that I came second in my second show, because yes, I came second and I was stoked with that, but I had maybe 30,000 followers at the time. And the girl that won had maybe 1,500 or 2,000. So obviously it wasn't based on following, which I love, because it shows that when I knew that when I finally would get there, people couldn't be like, oh, it's because she has a following, which I love for myself. But then also it kind of, like, I don't get caught up in politics. Like, I hear about the politics.
Yeah, because you hear a lot about it.
People talk a lot about the politics of this and that, but the way I see anything in life is that you can only control the controllables. So I can only control what I do and lead up to a show and how I look on stage and what I present on that stage. And there's so many judges in WBFF. I honestly think there's 6 to 8. So you've got a variety of different ones, and they don't usually, like in Australia, some of the judges don't have social media. They try and make it like none of the judges are coaches to anyone on stage. Yeah. So they keep it that way, and that's what I like. Like, I don't want to go into something thinking I'm already at a disadvantage, because mentally that's going to take it out of you. Like, if you go into any kind of a sports competition and you already have this preconceived idea that you're not going to do well because of whatever other reason, like, you're not going to give it your all because you're like subconsciously thinking you don't deserve it or someone else is going to win. Same with going into an exam where 90% of people are failing. I just was determined to try and block that out. But I don't think I could. Like, I think when I was studying, I thought, like, oh, what's the point?
See, one question I've always had, and I've never actually interviewed someone in the industry. So say like if I was playing a golf tournament and I lose, I kind of sit there and go, well, I just suck at golf, like whatever. But like in your industry, say you lose, not only are you dealing with the fact that you've lost, because that sucks, but also it's like fully judged on your appearance. Is that
That's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. Does that add like another dimension to it where you're like, oh God, like.
Yeah, I think it's funny because I can get so sidetracked, and that takes me back to the failure thing, but I'll go back to that in a minute. So I think the way I see it is when I step on stage, the only person I care about is me and how I look. And I make sure that when I step on stage, I don't look like I did the time before. Every time I look different, whether it's from the bikini to the hair to the makeup to my overall stage presence. So it is really you versus you. And I say this to my girls and to anyone else, whether they're in business or fitness or sports is different because it's teams versus each other, but it really has to be.
It's kind of a team. You've still got like.
Yeah, I mean, like,
nutritionist.
I feel like I'm doing it for, like, I do have a lot of people that I need to do well for, but it is only me that can do the posing, only me that can do the workouts, only me that can put the right foods into my body. So it's me versus me, in that I can't control who turns up on the day. Like, who knew in my third competition this girl was going to come in out of nowhere after she just won another competition in another federation and come in and win. And not only did she win that, she went on to a pro show a few months later and won that against all the pros that had been doing it for years. Wow. So that kind of shows that I was lucky just to be in top 3 in that situation. Yeah. But I think that when it comes to any kind of competition or any kind of business journey, like, if you're always looking at what other people are doing, you're not focused on what you're doing. So I really try and focus on myself. And at the end of the day, like, it is a competition. It's kind of a weird concept to put yourself on a stage in front of people that are judging you based on how you look. Like, really, if we look at this from an outsider's perspective, it's nothing what I am for. Like, I don't believe in judging people on their appearance, and it's kind of weird to line people up and look at them and judge them based on how they look. It doesn't really, I toss up sometimes how I feel about this because I don't think it aligns with how I feel about how people should view themselves and what's right and wrong, in terms of, I don't think anyone has the right to judge someone else's body. But in saying that, like, I step on that stage to challenge myself to be better each time. So when I step on the stage, I don't look at anyone else and think, man, I look better than them or they look better than me. It's like, oh, sweet, we all worked really hard. We all look great. Cool, let's have some fun. And so, yeah.
At what point do you think, because this is another thing I've always found interesting in the fitness world, is there's a lot of guys I know that are in the fitness world and they look amazing, but, you know, they're like jamming steroids into themselves, they smoke. They're actually very unhealthy guys, but they look mint. At what point do you think, you know, it goes from, because it's weird, everyone looks at these people and they look amazing and everyone goes, oh, I want to look like that. But as you said, you're so dehydrated, you're hungry, like, it's actually not realistic in any way. At what point do you think it kind of becomes obsessive and unhealthy? Yeah, so I think, like, my Instagram name is Fit for Life and my Facebook page and all of that. And the idea of that is about being fit for life, like, mentally and physically. Yeah. So obviously I didn't start it all to change how I looked. I just wanted to feel really good. And I think people think that the epitome of, hopefully now it's changing slowly as people speak about it. I think people see competitors, or they see someone that's fit on a magazine with abs, as the epitome of being health and fitness. But really, I don't think it is. Like, I think healthy looks different for everyone and it feels different for everyone. What's healthy for me might be very different to a single mum or to you or an athlete, you know? Yep. So I think it's really important to, like, pay attention to what feels good for you. Like, I personally don't feel super good when I'm super lean. Like, I love the challenge of getting there, and I love a good grind. Like, love it. And the waking up early and the posing and all of that and challenging myself. But I don't stay there. Like, now I would say I'm at a healthy range, but I'm up, like, 6 kilos from stage. And I feel good. That's where I feel good. So if someone's looking at someone online and they want to look that certain way, I think you want to look that way, but you don't want to do the work that's required to be there. And I think it can become really obsessive, in that guys get obsessed with getting bigger. And so that's when, maybe if you're going to the gym and you want to get bigger, and then you're not willing to wait a few years of training and consistently eating in a surplus, so you start, you know, looking into other options like steroids to help you speed things up. And for women, they're looking for quick ways to get leaner faster, or they want to build muscle faster. And I think you just have to realize that, like, what you see online is just not the epitome of health and fitness. Like, it's very specific to want to compete, and I do it for a specific goal. And I see it as, like, I've been to Nepal, I've been to Mount Everest, but I see it as, like, for those that want to go further from where I went on Mount Everest, you want to get to, say, base camp or further up. You're not going to stay there. You want to get there, you want to put the flag down, and you want to get out. It's like, I wanted to get first place, I wanted to go pro, I did the work to get there, I got there, I got out of it. Like, and I'm healthy and I'm happy now. Like, many women in particular lose their cycles, you lose libido, guys lose libido, you're hangry, you're not nice to be around. Like, I've had times on prep where friends are going out for lunch, families going out for lunch, it would be quality time spent with loved ones, and it's midday and I just say, like, I don't think I can do it, and I fell asleep on the couch for the afternoon.
Like that was for my New Zealand prep, which is going back to the failure where I had third in Australia. I was digging for that first. I wanted to do the first ever New Zealand WBFF. There's not been another one since. I committed to doing it, and I lost so much weight. I think, like, for me, honestly, like 9 kilos or something. I got so small. When Ross would hug me, I felt like he'd break me. I was tired, I was hungry, but I was pushing for that first. I came in way too lean. I ended up placing 7th. And so that, to me, going from 2nd and 3rd in Australia to 7th in New Zealand, that to me felt like, honestly, anyone listening to this would think it sounds ridiculous, but it felt like the end of the world. When you've dieted that hard, you've worked so hard, you've given up so many other social events, opportunities, you're hungry. I was so not nasty to Ross, but snappy, like all the time. Like he'd eat pizza in front of me and I'd like have to cover my nose.
Did he do it in front of you?
He did it in front of me, which
cruel.
is fine. Like I
cruel.
choose to compete, so it's my conscious decision to do that and it's no one else's choice. But it was pretty bad, that prep. Like usually I'm fine, but I was just, the smell of it was just making me so angry.
I just drive past McDonald's and that gets me in the drive-thru.
Like, I'm in.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was pretty bad. And so that for me, honestly, that was the hardest post-comp I'd ever had, because not only did I work really hard for that, and it's my first time ever doing 2 full diets, like 2 full shows in a year, but to then get 7th place, I was an absolute lost cause. Like and then it was the first ever show and only ever show I've had family come watch. Oh, no. So it was so much pressure. Yeah, I had my mum there filming up front, expecting them to be like, first place or second place. It was so much pressure and it didn't go the way I wanted. And then I had to go back to a room full of family and stuff for after, which should have been a celebration, which was not, and not cry in front of them, because I'm not going to cry on stage in front of everyone because it looks like poor sport. So after that, honestly, I went to therapy. I got a therapist to help me get through, like, if you commit a lot of time to something and it doesn't go the way you want, like, honestly, it's very hard to deal with failure. And I'm someone that is so positive and stuff, and to have your world spinning out, and then I had to gain weight from there because I was so small. Even though it wasn't a lot of weight gained, it felt like a lot of weight gained. And so you've got that body dysmorphia side where...
Yeah, do you have body dysmorphia?
I think like maybe I would probably think that a lot of people do. Maybe, I don't know. But for competitors, I think it's heightened.
Yeah.
Like I, right now, sometimes look at myself and I think like, are people going to think, like, if I come for a podcast and do a video, I'm like, I don't want you to think, like, I've gained weight or, like, I've lost the plot, When really, I'm a healthy person. If I was walking down the street, no one would, not that anyone should think anything of me anyway, but it's not like I'm walking down the street and people are like, she ate lots of food after comp. No one cares what you look like, really.
Yeah, well, I know a bodybuilder guy and he'll be in the gym, he's like, my red delt's looking small. And I'm like, I don't even know what that is. Like,
it's very hyper-focused on how you look. And that is an extreme thing that I think no one needs in their life. Like, as you're getting leaner for stage, you're so fixated. Like, as you get leaner and leaner, you notice more muscles popping out. You notice you've got, like, six-pack. You notice more abs coming through. And it's so hyper-focused. Like, at the end of the day, I can get to the day I've had a full day of food, lots of water, and, like, I've still got full abs. And it's crazy to me even now to think of that, like, being up and not having abs all the time. It's very hard to not focus on how you look after that. And it's just a weird thing, and maybe therapy helps people with that. For me, I just found that I needed to remember that how you look is just one part of you, and it's not the most important part. Like, whether I gain weight or lose weight doesn't make me a better coach. It doesn't make me a better partner, a better friend, a better business owner. Like, I'm still the same person whether I'm 5 kilos up or 5 kilos down. And so I think when people start focusing on superficial or materialistic things, that gives power. And, like, if you lose the way you look, you've lost a part of yourself. If you had a lot of money and that's like your sole identity and you lost the money, like, who are you without that? So I just have to really focus on being more than how I look and being a good person, and then it doesn't really matter, I hope, to other people.
So what would you say to people, I think women in particular, where I think these days with social media, everyone is so hyper-focused on how they look and how they present themselves, and, what would you say, I think, especially to women, because I know so many girls that get so fixated on that and they're insecure, and, they don't need to be, because they're looking, again, like, I've been in the social media world enough to know, like, yeah, I met a bunch of these like famous guys and girls, and you meet them and they don't even like look like what they look like.
That's funny, isn't it?
Oh,
like
but
in an interesting way.
yeah, but people don't, if they've never been in the industry or like you where they've met all these people, they see it. Like I was talking to Samuel Levi yesterday. He was on the podcast and we were talking about maths. And I asked him the question, I was like, well, why do people even watch when they know it's fake? Like that's why I hate reality TV, because I'm just like,
It's not real.
It's not real. But he was literally saying, he's like, well, there's all these small towns around the world and they think it's real and they think everything you're saying isn't taken out of context and they believe it for what it is. And so I think with social media, people fall into that where they see these people, especially like bodybuilders and stuff, and they look like that all year round, but they don't know that they've taken 4 months of photos in that 1 week. So what would you say to like your average Joe or, your average female that's sitting there going, I'm not like these girls, but they don't understand that those girls don't even look like those girls.
Yeah, that is so interesting. I think until you're in it or until you've met people in real life, you can't quite comprehend how different it is really.
Yeah.
Because even me sometimes, like I have caught myself looking on social media and looking at these women that are whatever, I don't like the word influencer, but they might be, in the fashion world of influencing and they're in bikinis and things. I think, wait, like they don't compete and they look like this. How is that possible? But I know from myself and looking, if I flex and I pose and the lighting's right in the gym, like I look different to how I look every day walking down the street. Like no one has like a ring light following them around or
I always see those posts you put where you'll take
the
like exact same photo, but you'll just pose differently.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Posing different, or if I relax my tummy out. And I've seen now, it's kind of cool to see people on social media that are showing like their posed photos versus the relaxed photos. And I did this years ago. It's kind of like a really big thing now.
It's a big thing now.
Yeah. But I did this years ago and it went viral. And I honestly thought, I remember posting it thinking, oh, wow, if it doesn't go well, I'll delete it the next day. And before I knew it, the next morning, like Lad Bible shared it.
Yeah,
So
I
embarrassing. I
know.
know, like Lad Bible is not the demographic I want to be on. It's terrifying. And so, of course, like there's always going to be all these nasty comments online and things. But I think it's really important for people to see the differences between someone in good lighting and relaxed versus flex and things like that, which is why I like to do it. But also who you follow online really matters. Like I think it's super important to check yourself and check how you're viewing people's pages. If you're constantly scrolling social media, looking at other women, thinking like, oh, I love her car, her bag, all these superficial and materialistic things, and then you're comparing your life to that, like how can you ever focus on all the good things in your life and how well you're doing? Like I've helped women lose 40, 50, 80 pounds. And if they were constantly looking on social media like, oh, this girl looks like that. Well, what about the fact that you've just lost 80 pounds? Like that is a phenomenal thing, but they're so caught up on looking where everyone else is instead of taking time to acknowledge where they are right now. Like everyone has such a different life path, and I do think social media is just such a highlight reel, and I've been guilty of doing it. Like I've posted photos where I'm shredded when I'm not shredded because maybe I might have thought in the past that makes people want to work with me more as a coach, and there's that pressure of having to feel like I need to look a certain way to coach other people. But now growth and maturity, I've learned it doesn't matter and I can post whatever I want. And that is, to me, more inspiring than posting an unrealistic for a significant amount of people look. Like competing is just so specific that I don't even idolize it. Like I never want to glamorize looking a certain way. I think it's how you feel is most important. And I feel so much better when I'm eating enough food to like have energy to live life.
Yeah, totally. I just thought of a good question for you. What do you think of, you look at like Lululemon and Victoria's Secret and all these brands now, and they have like their plus size models. What do you think of that? Because it's interesting because, as much as we're talking about being, your stage body probably isn't healthy, there's another extreme where being massively overweight isn't good for you. What do you think about that in the sense of like, do you think it's good to be promoting that or?
Interesting question.
Yeah.
So I think this is super controversial. Like online, you've seen all these different brands popping up with different things. I've seen a lot of people being really negative online, but that is the joys of social media. There's always these keyboard warriors. But I think activewear brands catering, in particular activewear brands, catering to people that are classed as plus size. I mean, to be honest, I'm probably classed as plus size by some modeling standards, like they have obviously extreme measures, but for those that are on like a larger size and brands are catering to them. I think if anything, it's a good thing because they're making activewear that women that might be plus sized or overweight feel comfortable wearing, you know? Like if they don't have activewear to wear that they feel good in,
they're never going to go to the gym.
they're never going to like go for a walk. I have people that come to me that are super overweight and want to lose weight, but they might not feel confident in going to the gym or being in public even. Like they have to walk in their house, or I'll have them walking to their mailbox and back. So giving them clothes that they feel good in is always a good idea because it might make them more inclined to want to move. But I think that the world is always in two extremes. Like there's always going to be people that demonize certain foods. There's always going to be people that glamorize a shredded life. There's always going to be people on the other side that are promoting like being extremely overweight, or people online that are professional like overeaters. Yeah,
because it is like a glamorized thing now. Because I look at it, I sit kind of perfectly in the middle where I eat like shit quite frequently, but I train a lot, and I feel personally like I've got the healthy middle ground. But it is funny seeing both sides, because I look at the fitness industry and at times I think it's a bit of a farce because I know these people and a lot of them aren't healthy, but then at the same time you look at these like very overweight people and that's glamorized, and it's like, I don't know, I do think that there is kind of like a healthy middle ground.
Yeah, I think like you're never going to be wrong for trying to move your body more, to nourish your body more, to drink more water, to sleep better. Like I think that for anyone, regardless of what weight they are, could always benefit by making sure that they're like putting good foods into the body and drinking more water and moving. Like I just can't imagine that someone wouldn't benefit from that,
You feel so much better.
So much better. And mentally, like so many people come to me and they'll say, I'm lacking in energy, I struggle to focus, I feel horrible in my own skin, and regardless of what weight they are. Like I have been super lean and felt terrible. And I've also been like, for me, say 70 kilos would probably be the max I've ever been. I felt horrible then too. So I feel as if where I am right now is this happy medium in which I can still go out and eat with friends. I'm going for an ice cream this afternoon. Like all these little things.
One scoop or two?
Yeah, always two.
Kitty cup.
Three. Like if I was dieting, I'd pick a kitty cone. But when I'm not, I know my balance of like, I'll go for 2 or 3 scoops because I can pick different flavors and I'm indecisive sometimes. So it's nice. But there is that happy medium that people can get to. But I can't imagine that someone that is extremely overweight, I honestly can't imagine that they feel good. Like, how can you feel good if, like you said, you were sitting on the couch on a lockdown and you did 82 steps and you felt horrible, right?
Awful.
Like, I feel as if you get an increase in energy, obviously by eating the right foods, but by moving more. Like I do think if I had a choice of sleeping 9 hours or say sleeping 8 hours, but getting an hour workout in, I feel much more energized than sleeping 9 hours. So yeah, I think it's definitely an interesting topic. And I think at the end of the day, like people just have to focus as much as they can on themselves and tune out all the noise. Like if you truly believe that you're happy doing what you're doing and your doctor's fine with you doing that, do it. But if you know that you're making choices every day that don't enable you to live a longer life, then do something to change it, even if it's like swapping fizzy drinks out that have calories in for like a 0-calorie alternative.
Yeah, I was going to say, what do you think, obviously there's, again, the extremes of you go to chicken and rice and blah, 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 blah. But what do you think as your average Joe are like good things, easy things to cut out that are like terrible for you?
Yeah, I think depending on the individual, certain people could benefit by, like I said, with the fizzy drinks, just swap it for a 0-calorie alternative.
Because zero's sweet, isn't that? Don't like all my bodybuilder mates drink like Coke Zero.
Yeah, so like there's so much. Like I'm not a big fizzy drinker, and I personally don't believe that it would be good long term to drink a lot of it in terms of gut health. But from a calorie point of view, like.
So is it truly no calorie? When they say.
Well, apparently, like it is next to no calories. But then that to me is like, oh, well, it's chemicals. But there's been so much research put out by Lane Norton. He covers it so much about how there's nothing wrong in drinking like 0-calorie or sugar-free drinks. And I personally love a good 0-calorie sweetener. But you know what? If someone's super overweight and they're swapping from a high sugar filled drink for a 0-calorie alternative, like what's worse, Like if someone's trying to make an effort to change and they can swap out like a 500 calorie Starbucks for a black coffee or a cold brew that's like under 10 calories, it's a great choice. Like, I think all these small changes, maybe it's like swapping out nuts, which can be really, like, easily, if you have a handful of nuts, it could be 400, 500 calories. Swap it out for a piece of fruit. Like, these...
Yeah, one of Dad's, because obviously we used to have, like, the security guards when Dad was Prime Minister. And one of them went on this, like, big health kick when he was with Dad. It's so funny. I remember I was quite young, but he's like, oh, yeah, guys, you know, fitness, it's just all about what you put in your body. And, you know, he's giving us this big speech. And he bought this, like, big thing of almonds. And he honestly ate the entire bag. Like, he must have eaten 100 almonds. And
so
Mum was
much.
sitting there going, you do realise, like, 6 is, like, probably the amount you're meant to eat.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem is all these people do, like, you know, they try to do these healthy things, say, like, eating almonds, but then they eat 30 of them. And then that's almost worse than having the bag of chips.
Yeah, or like a chocolate bar. You could easily... So I'm very big on sustainability and eating foods that you enjoy whilst, you know, sticking within your caloric range. So I'm very big on what they now call flexible dieting, which I never had for previous competitions. But now it's like, you know what, hey, yes, having a chocolate bar, it's probably not as nutritionally as dense as, say, a protein shake and a piece of fruit, but if eating one chocolate bar stops you from going crazy and eating like a whole pizza and an ice cream tub at night, like, by all means, plan for it and do it. Like, Ross, my husband, has a chocolate bar every night, and before trumpets got outrageously expensive, he'd have a trumpet ice cream every night.
Good.
They're so good.
The jelly tip one.
Oh, I love chocolate and jelly tip and, like, just all of them.
The Noffy pie one slaps as well.
Oh, I haven't tried that or the new one. Chocolate's my favourite because I love chocolate.
Yeah.
Everything.
What's your do you like KFC or anything? Like what? No. What's your favorite? Like if you could have a cheat meal, what is it?
Yeah. So with sustainability comes the way I speak about food. So I get that everyone's like, oh, cheat meal. Yeah. Like, I always encourage people not to use those words. Of course, from a general point of view, it's fine, and I get that everyone knows what a cheat meal or a treat meal is. But just for anyone listening, because I know a lot of my girls will come through to listen to this, I never use words like good, bad, treat, cheat around foods. So I call it like whole foods and soul foods. So whole foods are more nutritionally dense. Obviously, soul foods are like chocolate, ice cream, pizza, whatever. And so the reason why I don't say cheat meals is only because, like, it implies a feeling of, like, guilt,
like
right?
guilt, like a bad thing. Yeah, and that's a good way of looking at it.
Yeah, and so I used to fall into the trap of, like, oh yeah, cheat meal, gonna do this, and it would lead to the whole weekend of like going crazy. But now, like, my favorite treats would be, I definitely love a good, like, ice cream out, like a good gelato. I went to Sydney a few weeks ago and I had gelato Messina three nights
so
in a row.
mad,
Oh my gosh, it's so good. Like,
they have great gelato in Australia.
Australia is a Bondi Beach, like Sydney area is just, everyone's out, like you said, in Australia, you know, everyone's up at 5 a.m. catching the sunrise swims. It's just a good lifestyle. Whole Foods, like some gelato at night, like, oh, gelato is good. And
good.
I had pizza, the first takeaway food I've had, really, like a takeaway pizza since 2017 was the last time I had one. And then the other weekend at Ed Sheeran, after a few drinks, I had Domino's. So that was the first time in 4 years or 6 years.
How good was it out of 10?
It was pretty good. It was
really
Hawaiian. Controversial, but pineapple on pizza.
Oh, no. I got to end the podcast now.
Bye, guys. She's kicked off. We're not publishing it.
Delete it, Robbie. Delete it.
Yeah, so, you know, I'm not a big takeaway person. I truly have gone to a place in which, like, I can make foods that I love at home. Like, I love a good air fryer. Like, love my air fryer. It's everything.
The other day, I saw this guy, and he made healthy zinger burgers. Oh my God, I made them the other night. They were so mint. And it was like super healthy. Well, it wasn't until I put all the sauce.
Till I lathered it with mayonnaise.
Fake cheese.
I feel like, yeah, you know, takeaways are like fine if I am, like, if I'm traveling, I go to Chipotle in America.
I had that
good.
every day.
Yeah, literally every day. Or if I'm in certain places like, what is the Panda one? Panda Express.
Panda Express.
Because they've got broccoli and meats. And so I don't really get like the noodle and crazy foods there. Yep. Never liked KFC. To be honest, Blenheim never had KFC until I was like late high school.
Blenheim never had internet.
We're still on dial-up down there.
Colour TV's just come in.
Yeah. So when it comes to like fast foods and things, I'm not that fussed on it. If I'm going to go out for a nice meal, like honestly on comp prep, all I'm craving is more food. It's not like I want anything extravagant. After comp, I mainly just wanted a good steak. So the
Steak?
steak.
Can you not eat steak in the...
Oh, I could, but like someone else cooking for me, going to a restaurant, like I have to weigh everything, and I don't trust restaurants. Like they cook with different stuff. And if I'm on prep, everything is to the dot. Like I will not miss a beat. It is to the point of a gram. Like I just believe if I'm going to do something, I'm doing it all the way. And when I step on that stage, it's undeniable that I gave everything I could. Because what if, you know, I stepped on stage and I got second, and this obviously has happened. And that week actually that I got second, I slipped up in the week. I actually ate the food a day earlier that I should have. Like in a peak week, sorry, I'm trying to explain it in the most basic way. Yeah, or you're supposed to have a carb up day a few days before and then tailor it back. I had my carb up day a day earlier, and so a little bit of me could have been like, oh, well, imagine if I timed my meals properly and maybe I could have been first. But I think I deserve second, and she looked amazing, so I'm okay with that. But I don't want to leave any stone unturned. So.
It's buzzy you say that, because I was talking to Joseph Parker. He was on the potty a couple of weeks ago as well. And he was saying the same thing. You don't want to be in the fight thinking, oh, I should have practiced this more. And it's interesting you say that, because it's like kind of the exact same thing. And I think I've always felt that going into like exams or business meetings, or, you know, even podcasts when you've been unprepared and you're like sitting there going, oh God.
I should have done that. I never like that shoulda feeling. Like I should have done this better. It's like it will dig at me for so long that I should have done something better. So I just try and be as best prepared for whatever I can. And that actually boxing or fighting would probably be a similar mindset, I guess, to competing in bodybuilding, because it really is all on you. Like you're the one that fights, you're the one that has to get on stage or get in a ring. So I guess like that, that kind of mindset is a champion mindset. Like I don't want to step on that stage and know that there was something else I could have done. And so going into Atlantic City, it was my 6th show. I've wanted to go pro for so many years. It's very hard to keep believing in yourself when you keep getting told no, I'm missing the mark no matter how hard you work. And every show it's like, I think, okay, what can I do better? How can I make this it? And it's hard to keep believing and thinking like this is going to be my show when I've stepped on that stage in New Zealand and then got 7th. Yeah. Thinking I might have had it in the bag, or at least top 5 or at least top 3. And so going to America, I knew I had done everything they wanted. Everything was flawless from head to toe, like custom bikini, custom gown. Hair was perfect, makeup, everything to the dot. There was not one thing I could have done better. And I knew that when I stepped on that stage, my goal was to bring the most energy. Had a little shot of caffeine before I went out on stage, and I was like on fire. You could not have taken me off the stage. Like,
get her off, security.
Excuse me, Anjuli Mack, please leave the stage.
I'm leaving.
Everyone is off. Yeah, so I was up there with the highest energy. It was the best feeling. And when they announced top 5, I was like, oh no, that means if they're doing top 5, how they're going to structure it is top 3 and then top 2 and then 1. And so I knew once they do top 5, they're going to say top 3. They'll do top 5, then send you all back, and then they're going to do top 3, which means you're in a lineup of the top 5. You've either got 3rd, 2nd, or 1st, or you didn't get any. You got top for 4 or 5. So when
So how many were in the show to start?
Like 20-something girls.
So then they get 15 of them off, effectively.
I think they're either off stage or at the very back of the stage, and then they call 5 forward, and then they send you to the middle of the stage. Then they're going to call 3rd place, 2nd place.
So did you get called 4 in the fight?
Yeah. And then they sent us back. And
so you knew you were at least top 5?
I knew I was top 5.
Okay,
so then when they said 3rd place, and obviously I've been in the position of having 2nd before, but they said 3rd place, and I'm like, okay, that's not me. They said 2nd. And then at that point, I've either got 1st or I got 4th or 5th. And I just remember honestly standing in that lineup like, please be the time that I got 1st.
Sorry, so the 5 of you are standing there, and then they just say 3rd?
Yeah.
Oh, so you don't know whether you've been 1st, 4th, or 5th? Oh, that's horrific.
It was horrible. Like, as opposed to if they just had a lineup of 20 girls and they're like 3rd, 2nd, 1st.
Yeah.
So you're waiting there, and I just remember thinking, please be the time. Like, it has to be my time. There's nothing else I could have done, because I don't think I could have kept competing after that if it didn't go the way I wanted it to be. And then they were like 1st place in Anjuli Mack, and like
how'd you feel
my mouth just dropped to the floor. Like, other people surely look nice when they win, but I've wanted this for so long like, it finally happened, and I just wanted to cry and run off stage and go say to Ross, like, I finally did it.
Yeah.
And
That's awesome.
my mouth just dropped. I didn't cover my face gracefully. I just floored, to be honest. Like, next time when my time comes when I compete as a pro, hopefully, I'll get first and get a crown one day. That's the goal. I now know to cover my face and look graceful.
Graceful.
Yeah. But yeah.
So did you not get a crown?
No, so I went pro, and then the pros can compete, and there's like, they have, I guess,
Oh, did you go pro after?
Yeah, so I got first, and then they said, and new WBFF pro. So I didn't even know I had pro. I was just happy to get first.
So were you in an amateur tournament?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they were like, first place. And then after I was so happy about that, they paused for a second. They're like, a new WBFF pro. Cool. And then you get a certificate and you sign it and you're part of like the pro family. Awesome. And then now I can compete around the world with the other pros, and that's where you win a crown.
So what's next for you, that?
I just need a break.
Yeah.
I really want to focus on other ventures. Like, I really want to work on business. I really want to do something in like TV, because I had to turn down a lot for that last prep. Like, I had casting last year. I got offered something and I couldn't do the show because it would require me to be away for up to 3 weeks with no gym. So I think
I got asked to do the same show.
It would be so cool if you're on
that
the
would
I
be
think,
funny.
yeah. You said no, like you couldn't do it?
Yeah, I've been asked to do like all of them. It's not really it's not my buzz.
And like you said, you don't like reality TV,
nah.
right? For me, I like a challenge, and I like stepping outside my comfort zone. I had no idea what this thing was, and I don't really watch this kind of stuff.
Nah.
But I just thought, it could be fun. It's a different challenge for me. So I do want to get into different areas of things just for stepping outside my comfort zone. But I do want to compete again, whether I do it this year or whether I do it next year. It depends. Like, I am natural, so it takes me time to build muscle. Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't. Or not unfortunately, I'm glad with the choices that I make, but I don't have the choice of being able to compete.
Do people accuse you of being on steroids?
I don't think I look like it, to be honest. Like, I don't know.
I find it hard to tell with girls, if I'm being honest.
So I didn't think that in my competition that I do, it was a thing, because...
Do they drug test you?
No.
Oh.
So
you could have been on them?
I could have been. I could be. Yeah. But I'm not.
Am I? Find out next week.
So, like, it's not about, like I said, having the most muscle. It's about how you look overall. And I, am not into doing anything that would be detrimental to my health. Like, I didn't start fitness to change how I looked. I started to be healthy. So I personally don't think that a woman needs it, and I was determined to go pro and show a few different things. Like, I wanted to do it completely natural in terms of no steroids, no Botox, no fillers, nothing about me, like no surgeries, nothing. I just really wanted to show for my younger self that thought women needed to take something or needed to have fake boobs and fake this and that to look a certain way. Like, I was determined to show myself that I could do it. And I guess the next goal would be to, win a crown and really show that you can come from someone that knows nothing about nutrition and training, to not have any surgeries, to not be a super tall person, and like do really well.
What age is it kind of like it just becomes a point where it's too physically?
Yeah.
Like, what's the peak?
So I think the cool thing about this versus something like, I know a lot of sports people are done by mid-30s.
Yeah, mid-30s is
I think seems to be like the cutoff for a lot of sports, I guess, because that's quite strenuous. But, I mean, bodybuilding obviously is too, but they have classes for 35 plus and 40 plus women.
Even in pro?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
It's pretty
so you
cool.
Can keep doing
so
it.
I could keep going.
Can you lose your pro card?
Oh, I don't know. I don't think.
Like, if you got super dusty, could they?
Oh, no. That'd be horrible. No, thank goodness. No, I hope not. I worked so hard for that.
Give me that back.
Yeah, you don't get it. No, thankfully, I don't think you can lose it.
Cool.
Unless you switch federations. Some places, like if I was to say I want to go, because then I'm not a brand representative of it, but there's no federation I've competed in other than WBFF. Yeah. I just love everything about it. So, I mean, for me personally, it's going to get to a point where to be honest, I thought I was done after this last one. I was like, how many times can I keep doing it? I
feel like you got that personality, it'll just, that little itch will come back.
Yeah, I think it's already started coming back, like, recently. I mean, it's only 12 weeks post-comp. It was a lot. I've enjoyed a lot of social time with friends and family, more than I would have. Last year I did 2 shows. That was 32 weeks of dieting, 32 weeks out of the year strict. Wow. So I just needed some time to blow off steam. But I'm already getting a bit of the itch, like, when do I next do it, and when can I do it, whether it's like London or USA again. Like there's a few cool pro shows, and like there's Las Vegas, there's Bahamas, there's
What happens though when you travel? Because don't you store water when you travel?
Yeah, so I travelled a week before my show. So we flew to New York, had my birthday week there, got to catch the NBA, NFL,
awesome.
like all the sports games. Got to make it worth it for Ross. So I booked like all the games for him and like had a fun week. But then I had that week of being able to sort stuff. But to be honest, I was so lean that my body didn't change. Like every day I woke up looking better and better leading up to it. And it's like Christmas, each day you're unraveling like a new level of conditioning. And by show day, I remember waking up and I took my photos for my coach because I send photos every single morning. And I just went into the room and I said to Ross, I was like, this is the best I've ever looked. It was perfect. Absolutely. No. And I mean, obviously the judges thought it was right on par with what they wanted. So
awesome.
Yeah.
So if people want to check you out or, sign up as a client or anything, how do they go about that?
Yeah, so I'm online everywhere. You can pretty much just search Anjuli Mack, Anjuli Fit for Life. Coaching, I coach women all around the world, which is pretty cool. So I've got women in over 80 different countries, and that's fitwithanjuli.com.
Yep.
But like I said earlier, I'm very big on sustainability and lifestyle and building habits. So I really am trying to push the idea that if you want to work with me, you need to be willing to work and you need to be willing to commit to bettering yourself and focusing on like the healthy habits. Like I'm not someone that's going to be extreme and be like, you've got to cut out all the foods you love. And if you're looking for like a quick fix to get results in 1 to 2 weeks, like I'm always honest in saying I'm not the coach for you. Like I do this out of passion, not someone that just wants to make a quick dollar off someone that wants a quick fix.
I think that's awesome though, because there's not a lot of people in the industry like that. So
yeah, I think it just comes down to passion and liking helping people.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Well, I wish you all the best for your future with business and for all the comps coming up.
Awesome.
And well done on all your success. I've really enjoyed this. So you've officially been keyed up. Thanks, guys.